Hi, welcome back. We're now into chapter 4, and we're looking at textures, materials, shaders, and substances. So if you've never seen any of these before, let me just explain what they all are and why they're all different from each other, and then we're going to go through them all one at a time and just go into details of what they are. So a texture is your raw image. It's your JPEG or your PNG. It's RGB information that's created in Photoshop or Illustrator. And you bring that in as a raw file, and when it comes into Unity, that JPEG or PNG becomes a texture. The texture gets applied to a material. Materials are a bit more complicated. They have a lot more information in them. So a material doesn't have to have a texture assigned to it. It could just be a material that, for instance, you keep it solid color like white or blue, and then you can change materials within that. So you might want to change the specularity to make it shiny. You might want to make it sort of slightly dimmer, or maybe intense. Maybe it's got intensity coming out of it, like a light source. So in which case you create a material which is white with intensity. So you'd apply the texture to that in order to make it look like that picture. So you might have a picture of bark for a tree, or maybe like a square for bricks or concrete or something, which can be mapped and tiled at a large area. So you'd apply that to a texture slot, and then that turns the RGB value, rather than being a fixed color, into the picture. Shaders are a bit more complicated than that. Shaders tend to be sort of more code, and we're not going to go into them in a lot of detail. We're going to show you where they are, where you might find them. But shaders are kind of a code version of making a material with a texture map on it. And with a shader, you can do something much more clever. So you could start to have maybe like a flame effect, maybe something that moves a lot more. And it's all generated through code, so it's procedural, and therefore uses a lot less processing power, a lot less graphics power than, for instance, importing a video of a flame and putting it into a material. Substances are another level beyond that. Substances actually comes from the program Substance Painter or Substance Maker, which is now sort of a universal format. But substances are materials or shaders that have intelligent information in them. So, for instance, you could build a slider that populates your material with gunshots. So when somebody starts shooting at a wall, and this is the game technology here, the slider would go up, and you'll start to create in that little tile randomly placed bullet holes. And there's lots of other cool things you can do with substances. So you can do really complicated skin shaders. So you might bring in a substance for someone's skin, and then you've got all these parametric controls where you can change the color of the skin and the depth of the skin, or the amount of hair on the skin. And all that information is stored in the substance. So it's a much more advanced form. So we're going to be focusing on textures and materials, because that's really all you need to do theatre visualizations and creations. Shaders and substances, if you want to go into that, there's advanced training courses on that, which I'd suggest you go and look at. But I wouldn't do it until you master textures and textures and materials, because it's going to be a bit of a journey for you. So we're going to start in lesson 4.1. We're going to look at images and sprites, which is textures, and how you bring them in, what you do with them once they're in there, and explain a little more about what a sprite is and why that's different from an image. Okay, see you in the next lesson.